Morning, it's 10 a.m. on Monday, September 25th, 2023. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please rise, our invitation is going to be from Commissioner Beecham this morning.
Pray with me, please. Our good and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you this morning, humble people, Lord, and we thank you so much for the many blessings and things that you do for us, Lord, every day that we take for granted, Lord. We pray that you would give us a humble spirit as we do the work of the county, Lord, that you would guide us and you would direct us in our thoughts and actions, Lord, that everything we would do would be for the best interest of the citizens of Wichita County, Lord, that we would bring honor and glory to you through all of our actions, Lord. Lord, I pray that you'd be with our first responders, Lord, and our military, Lord, that are in harm's way. Lord, I pray for more civility within all of our areas of government, Lord. Lord, I pray you bless us, guide us, and direct us in all things. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. To the pledge to the U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Colonel. Do we have any presentations this morning that I'm unaware of? Yeah, Joel, I'll just wait for your presentation. All right, then it is 10:02. We will open up the meeting for public comments. As a reminder, we ask that everyone keep comments to 5 minutes or less, and no action can be taken by the court on any item brought up during public comments. Does anyone have a public comment? Joel, come on up.
Yes, Judge, and the Commissioner's Court. Thank you all so very much. I'm back in action again, and one good report that our DAV van, which helps all the veterans and their families in Wichita Falls, North Texas, especially the county, is en route now with the new camouflage or whatever they're going to do, and it should be out in October. I know COVID has really, a lot of people don't understand that COVID has really affected our lives even today, because it's still going on, and some of these government entities, they'll say, well, it'll be out in 2 months. It might be 8 months. But anyway, it's coming. Thank y'all for the support that you give us and so forth. But one item I was going to get, I'm glad that Glenda's here because, you know, we talk about cemeteries, and the Veterans Land Board, we have a representative, an executive director coming, Tony Dale, coming here to our county, and going to express the importance of the veterans and their families, especially the families and their grandchildren, we don't want to sell out our land, and that's what we're doing. We're selling out, and I'm not going to say something awful here, but we can't sell our land in Texas. Texas is one of the only states that gives this opportunity for veterans, their families, anyone to buy land. And also cemeteries. They're going to talk about cemeteries. It's very important. You know, and also long care facility. The Veterans Land Board will speak on that behalf. And it's going to be just a wonderful, and I like to, you know, sometimes when somebody says, I'm going to email you all my contacts, and they only email this important news to 5 people. That's not all your contacts. I bet you some of y'all have 400 contacts. This is what we need to do to start generating people, us, especially veterans. And I know I'm selfish in talking about the veterans also, but that's all you really know sometimes to help, because 80% of our people in this county have a veteran in their family or their grandfathers and so forth, and they can take advantage of this meeting that we're going to have at the bus station. Where's the bus station? Yeah, that's right. You see, 306 Scott Street. You know, the old the new travel center. You know, and so forth. And also, I know on the political agenda, we have to understand that we have to support our candidates. Y'all been candidates. y'all know the extreme importance of support. We're gonna have a meeting in October for the county, city, and constituents of this, not only this great state, this great city, this great county. And some of your friends are running for these political positions that they need to be informed. Because somebody said, well, what about the city? Well, you know, that's, the county's affected. What about the county? The city's affected. So we're all brothers and sisters. Some of us brothers and sisters in arms. And this still recorded, isn't it, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because that's what we need to do, come together again. Me and Barry were just talking about the other day. If we don't stand together, and this is what happens. The DAV, VFW, American Legion, the county, we're all organizations, service organizations that we're split apart. And we're trying to get them together again so we can get this important information. The DAV van, a lot of people don't know that the judge and the commissioner's court are a major component of this DAV van that in the years prior transported 15,000 to 2,000 veterans a year. And some of these other organizations that are charging my disabled veteran, and this is proof, and I will prove it later on, but not here. Now, I won't never bring it to the county, but they're charging our disabled veterans an astronomical figure, like $300, ladies and gentlemen, to go to Oklahoma City, Lawton, or our area dialysis here, charging them so much money. And later on, we'll speak on that, and thank you so much.
Joel?
Yes, sir.
So the meeting with the Veterans Land Board.
Oh, yes, sir.
Can you give the details?
Yes, sir.
on that?
It's Thursday, this Thursday, the 28th, at 4 o'clock, 4 p.m., this Thursday. And it's so essential because I went ahead and took it for granted, and I said, our commissioners and our judge says, I need somebody down here for my county. Of course, I put a little, I used not use y'all's personal name, but I just said that. And we got them down here. And they're going to be talking about some great issues.
Open to the public?
Open to the public, especially the families of these veterans, especially the families of the disabled veterans, because they don't know that good things are there for them. New added things, you know, like there's money involved to the veteran.
Great.
Thank y'all so much, and good people of this great state, this county, this city, and sometimes the good Lord leads us to get these messages to y'all so y'all can network with us.
Okay.
Thank y'all so
Thank you,
much.
Joel.
Thank you.
Salute y'all.
Appreciate you.
You bet. Hello, Blake.
All right. Do we have any other public comments this morning? Okay. It is 10:08, and public comment is closed. So at this time, let's move on to the consent agenda. I've got one question, or it's more of a clarifying remark. So consent agenda item number 17 is motion to advertise for bids for air filter service at the LAC. Commissioner Beecham, this is for what was mentioned on Friday. This is for the annual, this would be for an RFP to get bids for an annual, for a full year, not an annual, but for a full year.
Yes.
Check. Okay, so this is not going to, this would not take care of the issue that we need to get filters for the rest of the
We need
year.
to purchase
correct?
filters for
Okay.
this time.
And, Judge, I had marked that one too. I think that we should go ahead and utilize our current, agreement in place to change out those filters for this go-round, and maybe, get Rick out there or somebody to analyze what they're looking like.
So, I was talking to Melvin this morning. I don't think there's a mechanism for us on this agenda to be able to take care of filters for the rest of this year. Because this is specifically for advertising for bids.
Well, why do we have to? I mean, we're talking about a cost of less than $5,000. Why can't we just
order to work?
just order,
I
have,
thought it was much bigger than that.
It was $5,800.
It's just, okay.
Well, either way, I mean, that's not enough that you'd have to go out for bid
No, even 20,000 for the year is not enough to go out for a bid. I mean, that's what we're talking about for an annual, agreement here. But I'm really concerned we're stretching it way too far. And when I talk to other big, housing or warehouse units, they're changing more frequently than we are. And maybe there's some that don't qualify for as much, but we need to eyeball those things and see. You know, some of them may qualify for a faster turnaround than others. But what I saw that just came out was filthy.
Still have I think a
This,
procedural problem of it, that's still over $5,000 and court hasn't approved the court hasn't made a decision on approving that specific choice between those quotes.
But, I mean, can't we put that in place and then next Monday go ahead and approve the 5,000 or whatever it's gonna be?
I think that's what we need to do, yeah.
But this would be for 24, correct?
No, it's for the rest of this year, Barry.
Okay.
And then we'd start afresh in
This is,
24.
this is
No.
for,
This is for 24.
24.
Yeah. for advertising.
Yeah, 17 is,
Moving
Yes,
forward,
this
24.
is, yeah.
We
But
don't have an agenda item on here today to purchase the filters that we need to move forward.
Right.
yeah, that's my concern is we don't have anything on the agenda today that would take care of the moving forward today with them going ahead and making a choice between those two quotes to.
Well, aren't we scheduled for what, 4 a year, Commissioner, do you know?
We're not scheduled for anything.
Oh, okay.
We've just been
We
buying
took
them
action.
quarterly.
Yeah, we took
Oh,
action
okay.
last quarter to have a one-time service done
Okay, I remember doing that, I was thinking.
and come
you were
back the
doing it.
next quarter and have it evaluated exactly what we needed.
Okay, but then,
And we're several weeks past due right now.
so any discussion we're having on that would be off topic for this,
Right.
because this is
Correct.
for
It's-
bids for 24.
For 24, that's correct.
Right,
And
so
we
we
can-
don't.
We want to talk about the other, but that's not where we do
Yeah.
this, if I, okay.
Correct.
That's correct.
do you want to amend 17 to work different wording?
I don't think we can. Oh, I guess, are you talking about
We
for,
can
so we
amend
don't go out for
17
bids
the
for,
wording, yeah.
for 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just,
24.
yeah,
And it'll need to be quarterly bids, or I mean, quarterly service, but I think we need to have that in the wording of that motion. What it's for, not. It's for 24.
Okay.
Quarterly service with
Well,
an annual
Or-
contract.
no, I
Annual
would make it,
service, quarterly
yeah,
filter change.
service as required by the manufacturer's suggestions on each unit.
I like for it to be quarterly filters and PM, where they clean out the coils, they wash them out, and check each unit while they're there for anything that may be wrong with it. So PM service, at the
Yeah.
same time they change the filters.
Right. And what about, are we getting any feedback from them and them saying, I mean, I know they're showing up and changing the filters because we asked them to, but are they not saying, hey, this unit needs it monthly, it doesn't
Well,
need it
I
quarterly?
haven't heard them say it, but I know, I think that probably some of those units that pull 100% outside air, those are gonna have to be changed
Change
more
more
often.
often.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted us to evaluate before we move I mean, we can go ahead and move forward next week with purchasing new filters, but we need to evaluate exactly what we need to be doing with each of those units.
Well, I think at any time you see that there needs to be more service done to a
Yeah.
unit, we can
Add more
add more
service.
to it, but
Yeah.
definitely. need to
And Will, would you go ahead and get us the price for that quarterly then, so Nancy will
get- That's
have
what
it?
this is.
No,
No.
quarterly, no, we had that wasn't that week before last.
Yeah.
We had that on, and we pulled it.
No, that was for an annual service, Mark, 20,000. That was for the whole year.
Yeah, what we submitted a couple weeks ago was a yearly deal.
Yeah.
Just one was filters only, and one was filters and the PM service. We can go back to those and ask them just for the last quarter, this
Right.
current quarter we're going into.
And finish us up for
Yeah,
this year.
October, November, December.
Right.
Yeah, let's get that and get that on the agenda for
Okay.
next week. Because we know we know we need to get it done.
Oh, yeah,
get it
absolutely.
forward.
Yeah.
So on this one, Commissioner Buchanan, were you suggesting that we needed to amend this for and advertise for bids for preventive maintenance and air filter service, the LEC in 2024?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an annual service, but it'll be performed quarterly.
Yeah, annual contract.
Annual yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions on?
Quarterly or as needed.
Right.
Yeah, quarterly or as needed.
That would be good to have that on there,
Yeah.
because some of them might end up need to be monthly, especially full outside here.
Okay, so 17 will now read, motion to advertise for bids for preventive maintenance and air filter service at the LEC in 2024, quarterly or as needed. All right. Do we have any questions on other items in consent agenda?
Yes, item 14, Judge, I just wanted to mention that Melvin and I had met with Purdue, and that at this time we don't see any way around the fact that the law has tightened those fee, the fee language to eliminate what we perceive to be potential for adding extra fees for like an option. So we recommend to hold back and just approve our current fee structure as it stands today.
Motion to approve consent agenda with those changes.
Got a motion from Commissioner Buchanan and seconded by Commissioner Beecham to approve the consent agenda as amended. Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion or any items on the consent agenda?
9 and 12, consent 9 and 12, those were the ones that were approved in September bid.
Okay.
We want to remove those or approve them again, re-approve them.
Yeah, Friday said you wanted to approve them twice.
Yeah, we want to really make sure we know that these changes are happening.
They're double approved, that makes,
9 and 12.
Yeah, okay.
Take them off.
All right, we'll
strike that.
strike 9 and 12 from the consent agenda because that would be redundant and doing the same thing twice. There's some folks paying attention, okay.
Take some of us.
Yeah. All right, so now the consent agenda, the motion is by Commissioner Buchanan, seconded by Commissioner Beecham to approve the consent agenda with 9 and 12 taken off and 17 language amended. Any other questions or comments? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. General business item number 1. Review and approve the regular bills for payment. Order County Treasurer to disperse payroll and bill payments within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically, unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the Treasurer's office.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Mahler to approve. Do we have any questions, comments on the motion or the item? All right, motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 2, discuss, consider, and/or take action on the renewal of the 2024 Silver Choice Retiree Medical Program with Texas Association of Counties and approve the county judge to sign the 2024 renewal notice and benefit confirmation form. So this is, Sonia, do you want to address the court on this, or you?
I kind of handle that.
Okay, Sonia, do you want to address the court on this?
Sure. The, I don't know if y'all want me up here, but County Choice Silver is the retiree health benefit plan. That there are actually 3 different plans, and I should have brought them up here. But the county doesn't put in any money for this plan. It's just something Transamerica offers. And when somebody comes in and they're going to retire, we give them a packet that has the 3 different plans in it. One has a lower medical but higher prescription cost. One has a higher medical but lower prescription cost. So they get to pick what plan they want, and then they pay for it themselves. It's just something that the county offers, and each year we go ahead and renew it, and it's available for them. We don't have a lot that sign up. I don't think we even had anyone this past year, but it's there if they want it. And sometimes they just want to do it until they find something that fits their needs better.
It's a county retiree who's over the age of 65, so they're Medicare eligible, who are out of their own pocket paying for essentially a supplemental plan to
Yes.
their Medicare.
So it's just an added benefit that we offer.
Yes.
And so, oh, sorry.
There's no reason not to move forward and approve it, so my motion would be to approve it.
To approve the current plan, or to renew the current plan that we've been doing? Okay. Tony, is that your recommendation too, to
Yes.
just renew the current one? Okay.
Is that a motion?
It was.
And second it.
No. Either way.
We've got a few, but not many.
Just a few.
We've looked from time to time and
So just to clarify, the motion by Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Muller is to renew and keep the current plan. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 3, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve supplemental health insurance coverage options. So on this one, and y'all should have backup information in your packets, but to build off of the conversation that was had on Friday, it sounded like from our discussions, the court was in favor of, well, you know what, before I get to that, Sonia, do you want to tell us anything?
Just, no, I mean, basically, we talked about the plans that we're proposing, and there will be some changes that we're offering. The employees, I think they're for the better. We're actually giving employees some options, and as far as the vision goes, I just want to point out again, because Commissioner Muller was not present at the meeting, on the vision, we really only have 2 to choose from. It's Superior or Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they're pretty much along the same level of coverage. The only difference between Blue Cross Blue Shield and Superior, well, there's 2 actually. Blue Cross Blue Shield will allow you more allowance for the purchase of your glasses. However, there are like 8 less providers in the area to use if we switch to Blue Cross Blue Shield. Superior does offer more providers, so it's a wider range of options for the employees to be able to go and get their eyes examined and get their needs met. It also is coming in at a 4-year rate, guaranteed rate, which means for the next 4 years, those rates will be guaranteed to us in Superior. So,
well, that shocks me.
yeah, well,
Years, long time.
yeah, that was a shock to everybody that came in like that.
So the recommendation for vision would be to go with the Superior plan?
That's my recommendation. I just think it's a better fit.
In looking at them all, because I think everyone's packet, you've got multiple options among multiple carriers. I think my recommendation would be also to go with Superior and to do alternate plan option number 2 in your packet, which for an extra 29 cents a month in premiums, lowers the exam copay from $10 now to 0. The eyewear copay is increased from $0 to $10, and it goes up on the frame allowance and the contact lens allowance by $45 a year. So that would be my recommendation, would be for us to move forward with the alternate plan option number 2, the Superior.
Take these one at a time or make a motion with all of them together?
We'll make a motion with them all together. So, if there's anyone that disagrees with that or has a different, on that one, let's talk about it.
Commissioner Mahler, were you understanding on the dental packet?
Yes,
We're offering the high and the low?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's from which provider?
And that is with the Blue Cross Blue, I'm
United.
sorry, United
United Concordia.
Concordia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It doesn't, yeah. It doesn't say on the second sheet, that we say we have Kansas City Life Blue Cross and
Yeah, it's
the
the,
two. Yeah, I
United
thought I remembered it correctly, but.
yeah.
So, after Friday's conversation, it sounded like, again, my recommendation on dental was gonna be, to switch over to United Concordia with the two-tier, plan. The high tier plan would be the $5,000 annual maximum benefit, the rate guarantee of 2 years, and in orthodontics, 50%, insurance paid for children, and with an orthodontics lifetime maximum of $1,000. So the high plan would be for the annual benefit to be $5,000 max. The low plan would be for $1,500 annual maximum benefit. Everything else between the two plans would stay the same.
Correct.
So, and another thing that this option gives us is for new employees coming on board, there's not a ramp up like we have in our current provider.
Correct,
They
it's
get full
instant.
benefits as soon as they
You're
come.
instantly at maximum benefits instead of having to be on the plan for 3 years in order to receive maximum
So,
coverage.
these are both very good changes for our employees, that they have some selection based on their needs, plus they don't have to ramp up the coverage.
Right,
What is 3 years now? 3-year ramp up?
yes,
Till you're fully covered?
yeah.
Okay. So it's United High-Low plan.
Any questions, thoughts, comments on the dental aspect of this? Okay, and then the final piece of the supplemental plans that we discussed was a long-term care plan and life insurance from Transamerica.
This plan is something that we don't currently have at all. We don't offer anything like this, but it's a life insurance plus
Long care.
long-term care
Long-term care,
insurance.
mhm.
And it runs out at age 80.
80 for the employee,
80
65 for the
for the
spouse,
spouse.
and 20 for a child.
Right,
And again, all of these are supplemental, paid for by the employee should they choose to
correct.
Yeah,
obtain them.
no county.
these are the choices we made to make it open enrollment, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, no tax dollars associated with any of these. It's just what we offer as benefits to our staff. I would make the motion to approve Transamerica Long-Term Care, Superior Vision, a number 2 plan, and the United High-Low plan.
Okay.
Now,
Did you have something?
Yeah,
Nancy?
is there anything that you need to sign? I don't have that packet information.
I think that was probably waiting on for us to make a decision on what we're gonna move forward.
yeah, they'll just do it in open enrollment, I assume, right?
I didn't know if there was a contract or anything.
There is not in everything right now. Once the court takes action on this, then I bet we'll get something back. that we
Yes,
need to sign.
Higginbotham will gather that information once it's been passed, so.
Okay, great.
All right, so Commissioner Beecham made the
Second.
motion.
And thank you, Sonia, for all the work you put in on this.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This-
Glad to be able to
These are
offer
good
something
moves.
good for the employees.
You
These are
bet.
good moves. Thank you for reviewing them.
All right, so the motion is made by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon to approve Superior Alternate Plan Number 2 for vision, United Concordia 2-tier plan, high 5,000 max, low 1,500 max, and Transamerica plan for life insurance and long-term care. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item itself? Okay. Motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 4, Discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve a list of recommended durable medical equipment, DME, considered for coverage by the Wichita County Indigent Healthcare Office. Bedside rails, blood glucose analyzer, reflectance colorimeter, blood glucose monitor, canes, crutches, fabric supports, face mask for oxygen, incontinent pads, nebulizers, oxygen, portable oxygen systems, support hose, walkers, wheelchairs, and injectors, hypodermic jet pressure powered devices for injection of insulin.
And these items are added to a list?
So Sonia, or not Sonia, Glenda, will you come, do you mind coming up and giving kind of an overview of what we're talking about here?
Do you all have the list in front of you?
No. Oh, yes.
A
These
list of the items?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the list you have in front of you is something that we recently put together. As far as in the past, and I think it was 2015.
Yeah, it's been, I think 15.
It's the last time this list was updated, but I can't find the list. And I've been here a year and a half and I've yet to come across it. So we sat down with Judge and Mark and went over this list, and Christie as well, and decided that these were the basic items that were pretty much used by most of our clients. It's the insulin that I'm more concerned with. I'm thinking right. I don't think we were able to approve the insulin injectors before, and now I think we need to.
But Glenda, so you're saying this is the list?
This is going to be the new
This will be
list.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. And with that said, I would like to add that we don't get too many requests for DME, okay? So it's not that often that we have to pay for these items. But there are times that come up that we do. We do require referral from the provider in order to approve this. So it's not something that we just willy-nilly hand out or pay for. So it is something that we do have under control. With that said, I would also like there to be an option that if a situation comes up where there's an item on here that we don't have on the list or checked off, that we can, Mark and I can get together and approve, and with the provider, approve it if it's an expensive item. Because you have to remember there's a $30,000 cap for each client. And so we can't just, pay for anything and everything. And we have to be careful with how we use their money for their health care. But with that said, I think the list that you have in front of you is a pretty basic list. And the CPAP machines, those were approved back in 2015.
Right.
We've not had a request for one of those in over a year, probably almost 2 years. I would like to go ahead and remove that off the list as a DME.
Although those at one time were a hot ticket
They
item,
were.
so to speak.
We haven't even had a request for the supplies for the CPAP machines in over a year. So, and I don't know why such a drop, unless it's because the community health center is not.
Glenda, do we direct someone to where to buy these or order these?
I don't think it really matters as long as they accept Medicaid rates, which pretty much anybody in Wichita Falls does. So that would be a Christie, in the auditor's office, a Christie question, because she pays the bills, so she would know where the bills.
So no matter where they order them from, we're paying the same?
Sure. Yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
On this list of stuff, who paid for these items for these people before?
Well, honestly, I couldn't tell you that, because these clients that we have fall in between no Medicaid coverage and no Medicare coverage. So
These are optional items. We do not have to provide any of these items.
Exactly.
There's a larger list that the state publishes of items that can be added to durable medical equipment options that counties can pay for as part of their indigent health.
Well, that's not really answered.
To answer your question,
They're-
they're either not getting them right now or they're paying for them themselves. That would be
So
the answer to your
my question then, if that's a answer, then how many people are we potentially buying these products for? And the reason I ask this is my deal. We're gonna pick up 12 items, let's say, that we're gonna buy for county residents. So how big a who was paying for it before, and why are the county taxpayers now gonna pay for it? That's
Well,
my ultimate point. is-
Like Mark said, it is an optional item, and the only reason that I think that we need to add this is it's to help better their health care. And in the long run, I think it would save more money out of the budget by helping them with the medical equipment.
Let me speak to it. Right now, we have the ability to approve any of these items when a physician comes to us and says, this is what I recommend. You can approve them right now. We don't have a list of guidance to say, these are the items that we approve without extra lines of questioning, or
Jumping through
as
hoops.
long as it's an item that a physician has prescribed.
Exactly.
These were items that we visited with other counties that pretty standard list of items that provide a better overall health outcome. So things like the blood glucose monitor, if they're not monitoring their blood glucose, we're gonna have other problems that we're gonna end up having to pay for. It's not like that with everything, but for the most part, those items are items that we looked at to provide a better health outcome that we're gonna end up paying for in other ways if we don't have some way to provide these.
And y'all will still have, even if this full list is approved by the court today, you still on a case-by-case basis
Correct.
will be making a determination. And DME is a thing in the larger world of medical care that scares me a little bit because it can be ripe for potential fraud and abuse across the state as a whole. And so I wanted to make sure that if you've got someone who's over ordering, because I know doctor has to make a prescription for it, but I wanted to make sure that we ultimately have the controls here.
And that's why we require the referrals, so we do control it. And you have to keep in mind too, we stay in contact with the providers as far as, if I feel like the equipment is over and above what we should pay for, we'll call the provider and we'll discuss with them, And there's also charities that we go to that we
For like wheelchairs.
ask wheelchairs
And that was
cameras.
kind of that was my ultimate goal. How much do we spend in 2021 or 2022 on DME, and how much are we just trying to give more of a hand?
I see what you're saying.
Hand
And-
out more freebies and cost the county
And
taxpayers
I-
more? Or is this something we're already paying for in a different sense?
We are.
And there's a little bit of both.
There is a little bit of both. Like,
Yes.
for instance, crutches is one that's up on the list. And
Well-
crutches, we're paying for a lot of crutches right now when they're going to the hospital and with a
Exactly.
broken leg. They'll
One way or another,
issue
we're
them
paying for
crutches
this
when they
equipment.
leave,
Mhm.
and we end up paying for it on the bill. This is a guidance document for indigent health to follow. These are the things that we agree for the greater good
This
that we can approve without.
You can push
additional
that greater good a long ways
Well,
in society.
Well, and this
We
list
can
is,
leave it with no
but-
direction whatsoever, and
But I'm
then we
just
take
curious,
every
this
case
can-
on a case-by-case basis.
and this list isn't a list that says, oh, these are items we're going to approve, go get them.
No,
No, not at all. That's not what this is for. This is a guidance, like Mark said, for us to look at and see if it's feasible for us to help the patient out.
Okay.
And like I said, we don't get a lot of requests for DMEs. But we felt like there needed to be a list of items that we will pay for versus what everybody thinks we should pay for.
And I do
We-
appreciate your common sense knowledge in running that department, and I like your demeanor. But if you leave tomorrow and we get somebody else that says, hey, come on down, we can give you all this, what do you need? I mean, we can, see what I'm saying?
Well, that's why we're
I'm-
wanting for you guys to look at this list and say, hey, this is what we will approve.
Okay.
Like a bed, like a medical bed. Are we going to approve that? Well, it's not on your approval list. So these are items that whether I'm here or not will be paid for. And they're simple, basic items. I'm not saying they're inexpensive by any means, but they're the basic items, the basic care that anybody would need. And, you know, like I said, the insulin was the biggest one for me. You can't believe how many people cannot afford insulin supplies. It's
Or
crazy.
oxygen.
And
You know, we
oxygen.
have a lot, a high percentage of our indigent health clients are oxygen dependent.
Exactly.
And most of those qualify for Medicaid.
Insulin and
Well, they-
oxygen is
they don't.
something
They
that's
don't.
gonna be ongoing for a long time. I mean, that's a long-term deal.
Mhm.
You're not gonna quit. Those injectors, that jet pressure deal here, what's the difference in that and just a regular
Well,
injection?
it holds more insulin and you can use it multiple times.
Okay.
So we keep in mind that as far as insulin's concerned, since Glenda's been over indigent health, we've cut down our cost on that tremendously because we're really tightly monitoring prescriptions. We're not overriding or
everything.
rubber stamping the high-end insulin products.
Right.
If we deal with all the providers and see, you know, if there's another alternative,
I
let's
do-
use another alternative.
Yeah, we'll call it provider. If I feel like it's a prescription that's over the cost that we should pay, or if there's another avenue, another cheaper avenue, we'll call the provider and say, hey, is there anything else that they can take or you can prescribe that will help them? Because all these prescriptions and doctor care, everything's coming out as $30,000. And it's not, you know, it's not so much I am trying to save the county money, of course, but I'm also trying to help the client use their money wisely, the $30,000 they do get. So,
If somebody's
We were
got
literally
real-
eating up their
I'm sorry.
entire 30,000 on one prescription
Oh, yeah.
in a year.
Easily.
Because at one
Easily.
point, everyone was being prescribed whatever you saw at 11 o'clock at night on TV.
you know, just like
that you can't
the
pronounce.
drugs that are for insulin resistance and then also help lose weight. Okay, well, I know you've heard it on the news how hard it is to get those prescriptions, how high they've gotten. I'll call a provider and say, is there another avenue for insulin resistant patients? Can you go another route? And they usually do. So,
I look at this, of that list, anything dealing with diabetic supplies. There's some items on there for trying to keep falls from happening. There's oxygen. A lot of these are ongoing, much smaller expenses designed to help keep hospital visits from happening, which rapidly, you know, you eat up a lot of that as soon as you go to the hospital. And so we still have the same cap in place. It's still a $30,000 annual cap. This is just trying to change the mix from.
manage it a little bit better.
That was the goal in putting this list together, was to make sure we're managing our cost and make sure we had direction for indigent health to have from the Commissioner's Court.
Right.
Instead of just having that whole big state-approved list out there that you can pick and choose from, and
Right,
we can still pick and choose from it on a case-by-case basis, but
exactly.
these are the things that we said, all right, we, Commissioner's Court can agree or disagree on any one of these items, but these are the ones that,
And these are
thought were-
items that are long-term use. So it's not a one-time use and then they'll come back next month for another prescription. These are durable items that last anywhere from 24 to 36 months, you know, or maybe even longer. So it's not, you know, just like I said, a one-time use.
Yeah,
Is
so like-
that part of what you do is helping them manage this budget?
Well, not necessarily, but.
I ask that
it's-
because I realize sometimes
it's-
there's restrictions.
it's not a requirement,
Yeah.
but she does, they do go over and
It
above.
falls into
Yeah.
into my job because you want to make sure they get the full potential of $30,000 and you don't want to waste any of it. Because as you know, medical, in one day you can use it up,
Absolutely.
you know. So
If
I see
my
that-
question was, I didn't know if you were allowed to help,
Well-
which I think that would be a tremendous
Almost like case
service.
management.
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
well, and I do have caseworkers that do that, you know,
Yeah.
and they do a very good job of
That's
keeping in
good.
touch with the providers.
That's a real important part of
It
this
is.
process, I
It
would
is.
think.
And they, you know, like I said, if there's a prescription that is $2,000-3,000 a month, no, we need to call a provider. We need to figure something else out because, like Mark said, this will eat up. You know, that prescription will eat up in 10 months, they're, and that's just the
Then they're
prescription.
out, yeah.
Yeah, not medical care.
And just to clarify something, because I think you asked the question about Medicaid. So the state sets up the parameters of how we define indigency and who is qualified there. So anyone has health insurance of any sort, whether it's private pay or government insurance of Medicare or Medicaid, they're no longer indigent. They don't fall under that definition.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Okay.
They can have insurance coverage and still be indigent. For instance, we do have a couple from the mission that do have insurance coverage through a family member. Okay, but that's their primary. We fall in as their secondary.
Okay.
So, and that's rare. It doesn't happen too often, but it does
So the
happen.
best way to state that, we're the
Payer of last
payer
resort.
of
The last resort,
last
yeah.
resort, so.
Mhm.
Well, isn't everybody in our jail considered indigent?
Well, not
Not-
everybody.
Yes and no. We used to work every incoming inmate as an indigent patient immediately upon arrival.
Right. I
We
knew that
no
was.
longer do that.
Right.
We
Okay.
take, only time we do process an inmate is when they go out for outside care, and then they go through the same parameters
Right.
as any other indigent client. So if they have money in.
And it depends
in-
on their money in their commissary
Commissary,
account, if
Right.
they're above a certain amount.
I remember having that discussion years ago about,
That's why we used to have 500 or more.
Yes.
we don't automatically do it then, we do
We
it
don't
on a-
automatically do it.
Okay, that makes sense.
We assume everyone to be indigent, and
Yeah.
if they go out for any services outside of our facility,
Right.
that's the moment that indigent kicks in.
Okay,
Um,
that makes
And of
sense.
course, we have to be notified,
we have to be notified first.
right? And referrals still have to follow through, we still have to have all that in place. So it's
There's-
not just, well, go take care of them, we'll pay for it,
There's,
There's a lot of follow-up that goes along with
there's
this.
an indigent form that's collected upon book in. All that's collected, and we have access to that. That way, if inmate comes in and they have to go out to the hospital or whatever, we'll take that form, as long as the form's done, then we pay for it. If we don't have a form on file, then it reverts back to
Right.
sheriff funds to
And
pay for
then
it.
if we don't receive a bill within so many days, then the bill is, sorry, you had
I
90
wish-
days to bill
I
us.
wish we could expect this to be a downward trending need, but I suspect
Well-
that's not where we are.
Well,
Look at our expenses and payouts in indigent health over the last several years. We've trended it down by managing the program correctly.
That's good management.
Yeah.
And that-
We've decreased the
Right,
clients
yeah.
by almost 50%.
That's,
And some of that's attributed to fraud.
Yeah.
Some of it's attributed to people have passed on.
Requiring renewals.
Exactly, requiring,
By state law.
right. So every 6 months, they have to come in and renew an application, and if they don't do that, they get denied.
when you're in this situation, I think that's absolutely necessary and logical that you do that. Things change. Once again, I wish I could see the need going down, but
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
And you have to stop and think too, a lot of our clients, I'm gonna say probably a good 35–40% are undocumented. And it doesn't matter how old they are, we have to help them out if they request the help and they qualify. So,
Ultimately, I look at this item as the list is specifically tailored to try to rein in expenses on the front end and care management to keep us from running into big hospital bills on the back end, while at the same time it's also an improvement of quality of life and quality of care for the folks who need these items. And wouldn't be surprised if we ask for an update on how it's going
sure.
a few months down the road. But
And I could see this being a dynamic
sure,
situation.
because we can change this list at any point.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And, well,
I mean,
it
there
hasn't
are
hasn't
things-
been addressed in,
There are
10
things on
years.
this list that probably weren't even available 5 years ago.
You're
you
probably
know.
right, yeah. Like the wheelchair, for instance, and this is a basic wheelchair, nothing special, just a basic wheelchair. We've had a couple of clients in the past that needed a wheelchair, but that was not on the previous list, from my understanding, and so we couldn't help them out. And we were calling everywhere trying to find a wheelchair, and this lady was a large lady, so we had to find a special extra large wheelchair for her. We finally found one. It took about 3 weeks, but we finally found one, you know. So in a situation like that, we're able to go ahead and help that person instead of putting it off.
All right, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Glenda, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work, managing an office very well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Be my motion to approve this list as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Muller to approve this list as presented. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5 is discuss, consider, and/or take action to remove certified nurse respiratory anesthetist payment from indigent healthcare costs. I'm going to ask that we pull this one off the agenda today. After consulting with Glenda and Auditor's Office, we haven't had a conversation with providers who do this to talk through what this is going to look like, what the potential ramifications of such a decision are. And so I don't think we're ready to take action on it. So it's going to be, I'm going to suggest that we pull this off the agenda and table it. Does anyone have objection to that?
No.
Okay. All right, and 5 is pulled off.
And that was on there as a means to control cost again.
Yeah, we just have to make sure we're not going to inadvertently
Right,
lead to
inadvertently
more
make
costs.
yeah.
But we can have those conversations and do it at a later date. All right, item number 6, receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse annex. Commissioner Beecham?
Well, the good news, bad news is we still don't have an elevator working. Even though it was promised last Wednesday that we.
The one in the courthouse,
Yeah.
the second one.
The good news is they're here this morning working on that elevator. And from my discussion with them this morning, there's no guarantees when it will be working.
Is it just a two-pager?
So,
Now it's a four-page. That's, my talk to them, that was, they were like,
yeah, well, we got the tape, but we got a lot of test and balancing to do. So they told me when they were 65% complete with the test and balancing, they would go ahead and schedule the inspection, site inspection. So it may happen this week. I'm not gonna hold my breath. Other bits of good news, we held court already this morning in the temporary 30th.
yay.
The first action was taken at 9 o'clock in there this morning. And up until 8:57, we were still scrambling to get things in place. So it's not 100% yet. Their technology's scheduled in 2 weeks, Brendan, or 3?
Second week in October.
Second week in October, so it's right around the corner. We'll have all the technology in place, and that will be the last major hurdle. We do have some HVAC issues that we'll have to overcome. Rick's working on some things right now for that. Other than that, that room is functioning this morning, so glad to get that one resolved. Elections was moved into last week, so Commissioner Fincannon put a lot of personal work and effort into that one, so.
It's moving furniture up and down.
Yeah.
It's not done, but it's pretty close.
It's pretty close.
It's functional.
Yeah. it is
People have a place to
functional.
sit.
5th floor's continuing on schedule. We're trying to get that opened early in October. We've got, floor's gonna go down next week. HVACs will be operational midweek this week. Those are the 2 major things left to go, so. That one's looking good to finish quickly. Annex. If you haven't been to the annex, go over and look at the ceiling grid, the lighting,
In the tax office area?
in the tax office area. It looks tremendous. And they finished, well, not, all the lighting's not done, but they finished the cloud ceiling lighting and everything last week. And they're happy to see it turned on for the first time, and it looks fantastic. Could not be happier with how that looks. What we're late November completing all of that. So it's looking really good. And don't see anything to slow that down. Beyond that, there were a lot of questions and concerns last week. We have Glenda and Kevin here from Litigan. Ask Glenda to come and go over kind of step by step how we initiate a project, how the project flows, and then how a pay app is created and all that goes into that, so we can have a better understanding of how a project will flow from concept to finality.
Okay.
So, Glenda?
Come on down.
Okay.
Mr. Beecham, I just can't help myself. I've got to ask you what the view is like from the penthouse. Is that?
There's no windows, but the shag carpet, and it looks fantastic. So,
Little inside joke. It's part of the elevator system. It's not really a
no,
penthouse.
it's roof access panel.
Yeah.
As
You
far
won't
as,
have to
won't have to crawl over
crawl
the pipe.
across. Very dangerous
Sketchy 100-year-old
Yeah.
wood.
anymore. Okay, Architecture 101. We have, when the county decides that they want to do a project, we have been meeting with one or more commissioners. And when they decide, when the powers that be decide that it's going to become a real project, we bring it into court and y'all approve it and give it a number. Much like what we've done recently with the Iowa Park job, even though there's going to be some changes and turmoil with that. But we brought it in and y'all decided, yep, we're going to go ahead and move forward with doing that project. So we engage our engineers, we engage other things, we start drawing and the whole process.
So up until that point, how do you charge
Up
your
until that
hours?
point, it's charged as an hourly rate to the general, we have what's called a general job for the county that's renewed every year. And so it's just an hourly rate that is done. And we, most of the time, we try to get those billed monthly, but if there's only like 1 hour or 2 hours, we might hold that off for another month until an appropriate time that we do that job. And so that's where all the master planning and the cost estimates and everything are done, because we're waiting to get an official job on that. And then y'all give it a job number and we give it a job number. Not, the two shall not match. Y'all have your own job numbers and we have our own job numbers. But so that's when that process is done.
So that's the space right now that the work on the 30th exists in. Yes?
No, 30th has already been given a job number.
Okay.
And so we are working on 30th. That would be like right now the 4th floor. The 4th floor is not been given a job number yet.
It's a concept at this
It's
point.
right. It's still just an idea.
Okay.
And so, but 30th it has been given a job number. And so that's when then we engage like I said, our engineers and start putting together. Once we get all of that put together, we bring a set of drawings just like these that we brought to y'all back in August of 21. We brought this set of drawings to y'all, and we went through the entire set of drawings, page by page. It was very long and rigorous, that if y'all slept through it or tried to not sleep through it or whatever, but we went through every bit of these drawings with y'all and told you what we would be doing, and described in great detail that it was going to be convoluted and a mess, because dealing with 5 floors of a 100-year-old building was not going to be easy, and so it was going to be long and drawn out. So that's the next thing is we bring these to y'all for y'all to approve. You approve them. In addition to the drawings, 2 sets of manuals, these 2 sets of manuals, one's architectural, one's mechanical, electrical, go with this set of drawings. And this tells them in great detail what they're going to be doing and how they're going to, all the materials and everything that's done with it. I nearly blundered there. I started to say how they're going to do it. We do not tell them how they're going to do it. How they're going to do it is called means and method. When you have means and method, that tells the contractor, if he wants to chisel out an entire floor of that 4th and 5th floor demo with a chisel and a hammer, that's his job. I'm not going to tell him, don't you think you ought to get a bigger piece of equipment? You know, that's means and methods. That's his job to do, is means and methods. I will discuss it with him if he wants help, or I will.
There's a lot of consulting, but back and forth on how to best accomplish things.
Right, but that's his. Then in the set of specifications is what's called a summary. It gives a general idea on everything that's got to be done, and then it also has what's called bid packages. The bid packages go through very carefully, step by step, like I will pick thermal moisture and protection, bid package 7A. They have got to bid all the labor and material to install pre-finished metal wall panels. They've got to provide all the labor and material to install pre-finished metal roof panels, all the labor and material to install translucent light fixtures, corrugated panels, all the labor and material to install all trim and associated sealants. And then it goes on down through all the different bid packages that they will provide things for. But we don't tell them at what order to provide that in. We just know that we're going to get all the labor and material to provide a various thing. And so that is, and in this document, it neither tells them to separate out, okay, I want all the labor and material to provide this one room. It doesn't do that per room. It tells you all the labor and material to provide all the sheetrock throughout the entire 5 floors. Nowhere in the documents, in any of these documents, does it say, okay, I want you to singularly identify one room at a time so that we can price out.
Or one particular item. So
One particular item. We can give you the bid item to provide every bit of the ceilings. They'll provide every bit of the ceilings. So every ceiling in the building, they'll have a price for. Every piece of glazing and glass, they'll have a price for. But we don't ask what one piece of glazing and glass is. It's like so many things. You get quantity you get economy of scale. So you're not buying one piece of glass, you're buying 100 pieces of glass. And so we can't identify exactly what one piece of glass is.
Last week, one of the questions was if, as far as ARPA funding on a particular part of the annex in particular, there was additional information that was requested from the county in order to see how we paid for the HVAC is one component. HVAC, while we have an HVAC trade that's called out that does everything at all HVAC, that's not all the encompassing work that's being done to accomplish the HVAC work.
Right.
There's still electrical, there's
electrical, ceilings, walls, all sorts of things,
all
because
part of
we
the
had
system.
to take out ceilings and lights and ceiling grid to be able to put the new air conditioning in. And so you can't just say, okay, well, the mechanical package says that HVAC costs this amount. Well, we also have the ceiling, we also have painting, we also have these other things that a portion of those prices, not all of it, just a portion, has something to do with the HVAC. So it's not as simple as just saying, okay, well, it costs this much for the HVAC. I said it's very similar to one of the examples that I like to use is if I were a caterer and I'm catering you a phenomenal meal and party, and I have wait staff and I have dishes and I have hors d'oeuvres and side dishes and entrees and desserts and wine and other drinks, and you go through and say, okay, how much is this green bean right here? Well, I can't give you the price out of that one casserole, one green bean. I know how much it costs to do the whole project. And that's sort of what, very simply, and I don't mean to be an ass about it, but that's what we're being asked for is one green bean.
Who's asking you for that, Glenda?
Cheryl.
Yeah, that was an ask as part of the discussion last week that came up.
And that was because for our ARPA reporting requirements from the federal government, projects have to be broken down by each individual office or space that was being done. And so that was, in order for our auditor's office to comply with the federal requirements there, they were asking for the information on a room by room basis.
I'll have, after she's done, I have a question that I think will address that better. You'll understand it better from my question.
That was outside of the normal scope of
It's
operation.
very much outside the normal scope, because we were asked room by room how much this room cost, how much did this room cost. And during that time when we were trying to get that and we were voluntarily going ahead and getting that, pay was being held. And that was one of the issues. Beyond that, then, the next question that once the job is bid, the contractor comes in and he gives the court a GMP, guaranteed maximum price. And in that guaranteed maximum price, there is what is called a schedule of values. That schedule of values is the pay app that is given. The schedule of values is a national AIA document. It is a G701, I believe, that is always used very specifically. It has very specific items that it requests on it. And then it goes down and it breaks everything down into demo first floor, demo kitchen of the first floor, demo second floor, demo third floor, demo fourth floor, demo fifth floor. So it's not even just demo. We've got it broken down. And then the concrete, and then it goes, there is 4 pages of individual items that break down every item that is being done, whether it's labor and/or labor and material. And they turn this same document in every month. Every month that this particular document is produced, I have to certify it, it's notarized, and I certify it that this document is accurate and it's produced by what they have done and what they need to be paid for and what still is to be paid for. Addition to that, we have a contingency log that is turned in as well. And so every pay app then that is done, and you can ask for more information on those pay apps, and there's what's called a certified pay app and payroll, where you can provide every receipt, every little piece of everything.
Every hour worked by every employee.
Yes, every employee's work that they've done, and those are very expensive. That is, the U.S. government requires those, so anything that's done out on base. So it's not that our contractors around here are not used to doing those. They can do those, but I'm telling you, it's going.
They don't require that anymore, Glenda.
Huh?
The base doesn't require that anymore.
Oh, they don't even require it? TxDOT still does. I do know TxDOT still does. But it's going to cost you a lot of extra money to get that done. And we did not tell them in this job that it was going to be required. That's one of the first things they'll look at is this going to have to be certified or not? And if it is, they're going to raise their prices for it, because it takes a lot of extra time on each subs. It takes extra time for Kevin. It takes extra time for the gals in my office to have to proof that and go through that. So that was not asked for, and so if there's any questions about these pay apps, I've always been available, and I can go through it line by line, item by item, and explain to anybody who wants to know anything about this pay. As Mark indicated too, it's the same pay app that was done for LEC. It's the same document that's done on every commercial project.
And we pay on a percentage complete basis
Right.
each month. What percentage of each line item was completed in that?
Right. I go through, and if there's something that is done this period, like this particular month, there was $5,000 worth of carpentry done on it. I walk the job. I make sure that there was $5,000 worth of carpentry done between last month and this month before I sign off on this document. And
We're
give it
not
to them.
counting every individual electrical outlet and wire nut and everything on the
No.
job. It's just,
Yeah. There are 3 different forms of documents that is the owner signs with the contractor. They have a CMAR contract to begin with, and then they have, when the GMP is produced.
CMAR is construction manager at risk.
At risk, yes, yes. And then they have an Exhibit A, which gives their insurance, and it gives the GMP, again, the guaranteed maximum price, with all the bids that were received, and all the documents that prove up that GMP. At that point, the job is turned over to the contractor. At that point, I become a quality control person. I don't tell them how to do the job. I just make sure that at the end of the job that everything is done that's supposed to be done. I become a monitor. I'm a consultant for the owner and the contractor, so that we work together to get the project built. But I never swing a hammer. I don't ever actually do any construction. That's turned over to the contractor.
let's talk about GMP. So that's the
Okay.
guaranteed maximum price. That's the contract price of the entire project, and it generally has a contingency fund built into it to cover unforeseen expenses or some foreseen, some of the expenses we call out that we know.
Right, there
we're-
allowances, we can have allowances that we know that we're gonna need to spend some money on something. We don't know because again, it's a 100-year-old building and we might not know exactly what it is until we get into it, how much, so we'll set aside some amount of dollars, $10,000, $30,000, something dollars set aside for a piece of the project. And then the only thing that guaranteed maximum price is sort of, it feels a little misleading because it can change and does change. Anytime the owner wants something changed, if you add a blind here, or you add a wall here, or you add a ceiling here.
It pulls from contingency
That
first.
pulls from contingency first, and then once the contingency is used up, then we have to do a change order and either A, put more money into the contingency so that we can still continue to pull from that contingency, or we change the guaranteed maximum price.
And if there's a dispute over if something is a change in scope or if something is just thinking of at my house, if they have someone come in to redo a bathroom and turns out that there's a bigger issue with your plumbing than you thought there was. There's a dispute there between this is part of the scope and was built in, and or if this is an actual change and was outside the scope. Is that just, I guess that's just resolved at the time that it comes up, or?
Right, and that's when we come to our OAC meetings, owner architect contractor meetings, and we discuss those type of things, and sometimes it's like, that really should have been included, and it's just part of the job. And the contractor moves on and takes care of it and does it. And then other things, it's like, no, we never were gonna build that second bathroom. Now we need to go ahead and pay for that second bathroom or something like that. And so then it's a change. And everybody signs on it. They don't agree to do any of it until the contractor signs it, I sign it, and Mark signs it, and there's a document that has those changes. And some of them, when they're a smaller amount, he can sign them without bringing it to court first. He always brings it to court to tell y'all about a change, but there are other items that are so large that he can't sign them on his own until y'all have discussed it and approve it as a whole. And so nothing is done without y'all's knowledge.
Like on this annex document right here, we have listed 13 different PRs right now that are in the works. So, starting at PR 1, we had to modify the HVAC system, and we approved an additional $13,800 to do that, and that was a comfort control question as far as how that HVAC was staged in the early beginnings of the project to make sure that all of the building was still maintained with some HVAC. So that was a scope change that took us a big hit right off the bat that we didn't initially plan for in the project. It was necessitated in order to make sure everyone was comfortable.
Thank you.
And when we have a PR like that, like you said, if it's a small one, 1,000 or so, I'll generally sign it or not sign it. I'll decline a lot of them.
Yeah.
And if it's more than that, then it comes to court and we all approve it. And we did a couple of those last week. So we don't have any this week. So
that's when I turn it over to Kevin.
but that's not a change order. A change order is.
No,
a change order.
A change order actually changes that GMP.
Yeah.
The contingency is built in, but a change order actually will take it from 4 million to 4.1 million or
Yeah, 'cause
something.
we're still
whatever
on
it
the original
is.
contract, so it's.
A change order changes that GMP.
So we do have a change order coming for the courthouse, and we discussed that in court several times. That was necessitated when we approved the additional $300,000 to build the temporary courtroom. that took our contingency below zero. So we are gonna have to come back in the near future to add that additional work in. That was a complete scope change.
Right.
that
And
totally
M&F Litigant
unforeseen.
has been working on good faith because they're continuing to do that work that they're not getting paid for at this moment because that contingency is in the negative.
It's depleted. So it's only depleted because of that. We still have,
Right.
we would still have contingency moving forward, but we've depleted with that additional 300,000 in scope change. And there's been several scope changes on this courthouse project in particular as we continue to work through and find different things, and
Well,
one
and-
thing leads to another, and we,
Right. Sometimes you find something that it's like, well, while we're here, if we close this wall up, we might have to deal with this in 2 or 3 years, or it might be next week. So we might as well go ahead and take care of this piece of plumbing or whatever it is while we're here. There's been a lot of that.
yeah,
We have found all kinds of bad pipes that we had no way of knowing that were there.
and there's one potentially larger, won't be hugely large, but larger scope change
At
dealing
the
with,
annex.
well, here in the courthouse with the jail commission. We're waiting on
Mhm.
jail commission to come back and approve how we treat the elevator in the old central booking area. So we don't know, we don't have an order of magnitude to even guess what they're gonna require at this point. We've sent drawings of what our
Mhm.
best intent would be and have not heard positive or negative back from them at this point.
Right now, our first floor, is it still commissioned?
It is commissioned.
I was gonna say, with the garage, with Sally Port like it is and that area like it is, you couldn't even use it, so.
No, it's not, it's mothballed, but it's still commissioned. They could come and pull an inspection on it right now, but they know we're under construction. That was very well communicated with them. But
We showed them the temporary walls. We've sent them drawings of all the temporary walls that were built down there. And they were good with all of that on a temporary basis, but it can't be for holding. They won't let you hold inmates in it at this moment.
So, yeah, that's
They'll let you
one that's
transport
coming,
in and
that's
out of
going
there.
to be a scope change, of order of magnitude, we don't know at this point. I don't have a wild guess, because we don't know what they're gonna require.
Isn't that contingency that's in the negative numbers now part of the insurance claim?
Yes,
It is, so
well, yes and no, some of it.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
how, what's the
So-
process to,
We had
and that may
originally,
be a discussion for another time, but that is part of why we're in that negative deal.
we had originally changed scope already, going back early. We originally changed scope to include the district clerk's office, which was never part of the original project. We added, what, was it 40,000, or, it wasn't a
It
great deal.
wasn't much.
We added 40,000 in order to make a much smaller courtroom for CPS court. And that
Right.
was scheduled to move down there. We were just about to kick that work off, and then the flood happened.
Or
So
that pulled some of it.
we'd already ordered materials for that. We had some of it setting in stock, but all that scope went out the window.
Changed.
We
Well,
changed it
the
again.
fact that some of that would be an insurance deal, that kind of softens the blow on
Softens
that,
some of
it,
on
yeah.
that deal. That's my point in asking, is that sometimes I'll have somebody this afternoon ask me, said, how in the world did we get into a negative deal? And part of it was due to that insurance claim.
Yeah. We do have Glenda referred to it a second ago, we do have a scope change coming at the annex. First floor restrooms are tore out. Ricky went to the annex to observe the plumbing that was being put back in. The plumbing in once we got the ceiling and everything tore out, the plumbing above it in the second floor restroom. It's all cast iron and it's starting to crack, just like some of the plumbing here. And
There's actually a drip pan, so they knew that it was leaking and they just put a drip pan to take care of the leak.
Those things you don't see.
you don't see until you open it
get
up.
there.
Now, this is the snowball effect.
The peril
So,
of a 100-year-old.
If we replace the cast iron plumbing with modern PVC, we will have to replace the toilets. If we replace the toilets, then we have to go ADA compliant. So it's a
those-
snowball. So we either do nothing and pray that it never leaks in our new construction, or we go and make all the necessary repairs to the second floor restroom to bring it up to ADA compliance, which means a total rebuild of the second floor restroom. So that's an unforeseen expense that we'll be bringing to the courthouse pretty quickly for approval or not approved. But it's just one of those things. That's when you tear into an old building, you find problems. And we've got a fairly large, same scenario of problem going on at the courthouse right now. That we've got the restrooms on 5 plumbed in. Well, a few weeks back, we had water dripping in the hallways on 3 because a piece of cast iron pipe had broken several places all down the hallways on 3. Well, that pipe ultimately goes to the 5th floor and collects the sewage from the new restrooms on the 5th floor. So before we can open that, we're going to have to repair that. But that's not in the project. That's something that we're going to do out of general maintenance. But again, it's things that we run into.
Is the other gentleman gonna wanna speak to, or?
I would like to, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some questions after we get done, but I want
Okay.
y'all to go ahead and speak first.
So, just one other. We have 2 projects. We have the annex project, we have the courthouse project.
Right.
And it has multiple facets within
It looks
each.
like there's 10, 15, 20 going on in the courthouse. There's one project. It is one set of documents, it's one project. And until it's done from 5th floor or from the roof all the way down, it's not
We
done.
don't do a punch list
It's-
until,
Right.
before Kevin speaks, there's a lot of questions on punch list. We did a pre-punch on the lower 1st floor in order to move everybody in as a result, early, as a result of the flooding on the 3rd floor.
Which was basically done so that you could say, okay, there's this big major hole in the wall that somebody put in the wall. Was that hole in the wall there before, or did them moving furniture in cause that hole in the wall? So the punch list that was done for that lower level was a very cursory, just
That's not the level of punch list, because when we do a punch list, or I'll usually walk with you, but Glenda's a
I
stickler
don't,
for
because I get really upset when
every
I'm following.
detail. Matt, yeah, it ends up being a punch list. So, but every single detail, every plug's checked, every light switch is checked, every door's checked for proper pull, every painted surface, every detail of the project's gone over with a fine-tooth comb, and if there's anything that's not 100% up to standard, then it gets put on the punch list, and
right.
then it gets rechecked until it's right. And there's been
And
there's been
there
times,
is a
particularly with paint,
retainage.
that I've made painters come back 3 or 4 times until they got it where I'm happy with it. So
Right. And there's a retainage that's maintained until that punch list is complete, and it's not signed off on until everything is complete.
I just have a few things I'd like to bring up. I've been doing this a long time. I'm going on 45 years. This was probably one of the most difficult projects we've ever, anybody's ever done. And we knew it from the start. I mean, you're taking a 100-year-old building that's been added onto with completely different construction than the original. It's been remodeled, no telling how many times. We're gonna demo 75% of the first floor. We're gonna come in and knock holes in every floor going up to increase an elevator, take out structure. We're gonna demo concrete cells on the 4th and 5th floor, replace windows in most every other office. So is there anybody we didn't offend on or put out during this project? I don't know what it was. And we did the whole thing while the building was completely occupied and still running. We had other issues. The elevator breakdown 3 months into the project. The secondary elevator that was going to be used for the whole job went out and was unrepairable, so we had to make means to use the jail elevator for everybody's access.
Including construction.
Huh?
Including construction, that was gonna be
Yeah.
the construction lift through a lot of the project.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we mix people in with it, so.
We had a primary subcontractor, demo subcontractor that we were all really pretty excited to get come down from the Metroplex that really non-performed, and we had to let him go. We finished all the 4th and 5th floor basically with our people. The elevator, it was supposed to have been finished
A year ago.
a long time ago. We can't finish the lobbies until all the controls are in, so we've been waiting on them and waiting on them. We've had 79 PRs, 79 changes that went to contingency. 10 of those were unforeseen circumstances that we ran into, breaking into floor, running into plumbing that we didn't know was there. 69 were scope changes. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but every one of those changes, somebody comes to Mark, staff, whatever, wanting something. Mark looks at it, agrees, disagrees, whatever, but if he agrees, then he goes to Glenda. Glenda has to draw some kind of drawing. I take that, I have to go to subs, get pricing, get it back, send it to Glenda. She gets to Mark. He either approves or disapproves, and then we go to order material. A lot of these issues, doors right now are on a 12 to 16 week delivery. So if you get a change order or a change that's adding a door, it delays all that. Plus, that process of getting a drawing, getting the bids, getting everything in, can take up to 2 weeks. We've also been shut down over 50 times because of noise. It gets very difficult when you get workers, when you get subs planned on doing a certain item of work, and they work an hour and a half and are told they have to leave because we're making too much noise. That's just another issue we're having to deal with. And then you got the flood, which nobody could have expected. I know it was bad for y'all, it was real bad for us. It's going to be bad for us for a while probably. But we came in, we pulled people from all over. We got the cleanup, the demo that needed to be done in less than a week. We had numerous offices back open in 2 weeks. And at that point, the temporary courtroom was the critical item that needed to be done in 6 weeks. And we worked 9 days, 6 days a week, and had it ready to open when we were shut down because we decided to change colors. That's y'all's prerogative, but it just creates delays. It creates people who are getting frustrated because things aren't happening. I know y'all get frustrated, we get frustrated. But I think if we communicated better, like I said, we have AOC meetings every 2 weeks. My phone is very easy to get in touch with me. Pat's up here, daylight to dark, 6 days a week. Glenda always answers her phone. I just felt like the way things went last week, we got blindsided without knowing what was going on. You want us here at the meeting, just ask and we'll be here. But I think if you have concerns, if you have problems, I would appreciate if we just communicated and we'll do our best to take care of it. I mean, we want y'all to be happy with everything when we're done, and we want to be happy with it. I mean, it's our name on it. So that's really all I have to say. Unless you have any questions of me.
Now, I agree 100% with what you just said.
Okay.
How many jobs are you doing currently in Wichita Falls? Large commercial jobs? I mean, just all.
In Wichita?
Yeah, or anywhere.
We probably have 6.
Okay. And something you did, there's 2 things you didn't bring up that I thought you really should have. The whole the whole COVID deal and
Oh,
and manpower.
Manpower is,
Because you can't, you're trying to run, and that's why I ask you how many jobs. You're trying to run a multitude of different jobs, large jobs, and this is a large job, this is a huge job. And you can't get help, and I understand your problem.
every sub too.
But y'all can't find help to get stuff done that you want done, and I understand that completely. And I think that's something you should have brought up.
I have
'Cause that's
three, I have three, basically there are three commercial painting contractors in town. And they're all three working up here. Because I told our primary who had the contract, he was not able to keep up. And so I hired a secondary, but really I hired a second sub at the time we started the temporary courtroom. And I got back with our primary because he didn't have enough manpower up here. And I called another painting contractor and asked what he had going, and he had men available. So I worked out a deal with him to hire them to come up and help also. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can. I promise you.
and that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of us understand that. A lot of the questions that I had weren't, you said that you were blindsided. I had no intentions of blindsiding anybody. Mark took it real defensively last week.
He's caught a lot of grief here in the last couple
But
of
he
months.
caught it, he took it real personally, and it wasn't intended to be.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, there's several people in the courtroom, in the courthouse, different things. They're wanting to know why this is going on, And I went to Mark and I told him, I said, I just want to see how the process works. I'm wanting to learn, and I'm going to pay attention to more of it. And I do have questions because I'm wanting to understand the process.
Okay.
And y'all talking helps a lot, and I would do that. But since we're talking about it here in court, I'll ask these questions. But it was never intended to blindside you
Okay.
or blindside Glenda or Mark. Just to ask questions to try to learn.
Okay.
That was the reason for it. But anyway, because I'm getting, the auditor has her points of view on stuff. Right now at the courthouse, what percentage of this job do you think is done?
We're probably at 95. We're probably like 3 months finishing.
95% complete? Because from Cheryl, she said the job shows to be 98.96 complete. As far as building, 98.96. That's really 99%.
Then we're 98 point.
What I'm getting at is,
What is not seen there is there's that large negative amount that is in that change order that we haven't produced yet. And so there's
There's a
quite a
pretty good
large.
chunk that we've already done work on that hasn't been funded yet.
okay.
Hmm?
Like the county clerk's office, we have no mechanism whatsoever in place to pay for the sheetrock
We're doing
walls
that.
and the ceiling tiles or.
Well, okay, then let's kind of get me a little out of order, but let's go with that. On this deal here, it says Wichita County Renovation Program, and it lists all the project overview. Nowhere on there does it show the north wall of the courthouse. Was that part of the remodel?
The north wall courthouse was part of the project, original project.
Right, but it's not on this list. It says project
It says
overview.
I believe it has EIFS.
Should be EIFS.
EIFS, exterior installation.
No,
No, I mean,
no, we're so far past that.
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm just,
Yeah,
That-
it's on the
this
pay
is-
app as a separate line item for the.
but that north wall, I'm assuming it's completed, right?
Mhm.
And that's where my question is. If that wall is completed, then why in the county clerk's office were the windows never finished? Because you just said that job was completed. Well, that job
Well,
wasn't
that-
completed in my mind because the windows
Okay,
aren't
well, the
done.
windows aren't, the windows and the finishing of those windows are in different line items than the north wall. The north wall would be considered the eaves, the demo of the stairwell. Inside the building would be either carpentry or glass and glazing or painting.
And that
Is
was,
the way
and
it's listed on the pay app.
okay, and then that's why I'm getting to this question, because we replaced the north wall, completed that in August of 2022, and in September of 2023, they still haven't finished the inside of the windows of that wall replacement. So that's what brings questions, is
Well,
why
and
is it
Kevin,
sitting
that's
there?
where my frustration came from, is exactly what Mickey's talking about.
It's
I
not.
don't understand why a person would finish and a year later still not be complete.
We've been pulled a lot of different
everywhere.
places. I mean, that's the bottom line is we've just been yanked. I mean, the main thing on those windows, I believe, all we like on those pads.
Well,
is the
I'm telling you,
staining.
over the past week, it's been great. They've stained them, they're putting poly on them this morning. They're,
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason I ended up getting additional painters, additional
Right.
paint crews. 'Cause
And
we just
that's
didn't have
why-
enough manpower. They didn't have enough manpower to take care of every place we were dragging them.
but you understand, that's why I say that. That project, as far as when we get a little deal here, when we get a little deal in court, it says north wall completed, whatever date. We get a little something like that every once in a while from Glenda or Mark. And then I get it and I'm like, well, that ain't completed.
Yeah.
Because it's not
And,
completed.
well, that's the way,
Oh.
it's the way you,
Okay, so
it's
that's
just the way we've got it listed on our pay app
And
and
that's
the
why-
schedule of values.
And that's why I went to Mark and I asked, I want to learn how you do this. Because I have some issues with it because you can't show it completed if it's not completed. No different than the HR offices or the law library offices, they're marked completed. They're-
We've got punch list items yet to do, once the
Well,
punch
that's
list
why,
is
and that's
completed.
why I'm asking questions. It's not to blindside anybody. I'm wanting to learn the process, and I asked Mark. I went to him when he starts talking about RFIs and change orders, and most all that I understand. But usually, a change order you're billed for, an RFI is a request for information. I didn't understand why we're paying out on those like change orders. I'm just trying to understand your billing and see how it's done because it didn't make.
Like any of the PRs, it's not just something we decide we're gonna do. You know, we have a request, to create a PR, we come up with the pricing, Glenda does the drawing, we take that, we get the pricing, we get it to Mark, and then it's either approved or rejected. And at that point in time, then it becomes part of what we're adding to our scope of work.
Okay. In like the HR department or the law library, I go down there with people and they're like, Mickey, can you tell me why these doors won't open and close? And I'm like,
Okay,
they
now
already know about it.
They
But
know
that's,
about it. I would like to say though that those are original doors,
Right.
those weren't new doors.
I know that, and they
And-
weren't.
And
They were
and they were closing when we left,
Well,
but.
when we did
and
our
really-
walkthrough 6 months ago, they didn't work, and that was right as they were moving in.
I disagree with that part.
Well, we'll take care of them.
Okay, well, that's
We-
fine.
They will be fixed.
I mean, there's just things like that.
And
that's
we
why
understand
I-
that, and we've been, we've had different critical areas that, that's why we meet every 2 weeks. We come in, we meet, here's where we're working now, we need to pull off of this, we need this done by,
And there's
Whatever,
been,
we've been-
been way too many emergencies in this whole job.
there has
And
we've offended everybody in the building.
People's
We
views
have-
change.
That is
But-
definitely not our intent.
But
so.
I'm not trying to be hateful here. I think y'all have done a great job for the amount of people you've had here and the staff that you've had here. I just don't quite understand on all the building. And I'll ask another couple of questions here, because you
Sure.
gave us this morning on the MF Litikin, jobs complete and stuff. And it says, the temporary courtroom completed on this day. And elections completed on 9/21. Why would those go to completed when they're not really completed? Because let's
They're
just
to
say,
a point, Commissioner, where there probably is all that's gonna be done until a punch list is created. And then when the items, we'll do whatever is left at that point where there's a punch list. It was to the point where
We can move in.
the space was needed, from what we were told, the space was needed so bad that we needed to get people in it.
correct.
And so we got it to a point where we could do that. Anything else that's not complete will come up on a punch list, and we'll take that as once we start working out the punch list.
And I
We'll
think,
take care of all those
and
items.
to address that, me as a commissioner, man, I just started walking for a couple of weeks. I think your company's doing great at addressing those emergencies and getting people where they need to go and getting them done. I truthfully think you are doing a great job,
Thank you.
especially with the limited amount of staff you have. Now back to another question.
Okay?
And this is, Glenda brought this up a while ago, and I'm curious. I didn't want to interrupt her while she was talking, but this right here, this is something you prepare?
Mm-hmm.
And then Glenda signs off on it and notarizes it. And Mark, I talked to him about it, and he said this can't come to us until he signed off on it, that the work's been done too.
Well, I usually at OAC meeting, not AOC, OAC meeting, we talk about anything that's outstanding and where we are on the project. So that's the point of having an OAC meeting twice a month.
We generally prepare that once a month. We're supposed to have it to Glenda by the 25th. And so we take all our sub bids are due to us on the 22nd. We take all that information. There's certain subs that we don't necessarily what they put into their pay app into our pay app to y'all, because sometimes they overbill, and we try to keep that in line so that we're covering both of us.
Right.
We prepare that, then we send it to Glenda, and from there Glenda reviews it, and then when she's happy with it, she sends it on to Mark.
And I wasn't unhappy with any of these numbers. I just went to Mark asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And no different than that carpentry work. If you're gonna bill, close to $5,800 for carpentry work for this billing cycle,
Mhm.
my question was, okay, what carpentry work was done? I'm just curious. And he didn't know, but just carpentry work throughout the courthouse is the way she explained it. And that makes more sense. But if you're looking at at what percentage is completed, if you go through this whole list looking at percentage completed, and all you did was punch in the numbers, the auditor's probably right. It's probably 99% complete, because almost all your line items are maxed out at 100%. That's what I don't understand, because I'm not seeing 100% finished, if that makes sense. The HR rooms are not 100%, the law library is not 100%, elections not 100%. You see how I'm just trying to figure this out in my mind. And when I was going through asking him, when I got down to the card access, it shows card access $1,800.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, what is card access? He said, I don't have any idea.
I still don't know what that one is, why it come up this month, because we haven't put anything.
We haven't done
card
anything
access.
card access, and it's on there. So my question was, okay, so are you just kind of taking money from a line item to pay bills for the contractors for that month? Whether there's any work done in there or not.
We actually take, we get bills from all our subcontractors, and we look at what they're billing and what theirs is broke down similar to what, to what
And
that is.
it'll show a percentage of what completion they are.
And theirs is pretty much the same bill as, or format as what you have, so they'll have the same line items and the breakdowns. We take that, I'll sit down with Pat, we go through, what all they've done that month, whether they've done that, that work or not, and then we'll include it in our pay app. We just we don't take what.
You don't take their word for it.
I don't take their word for it, but I don't also take what our, okay, I need this much money to pay bills this month, so I'm gonna bill this much. We look at it on an item by item basis, and sometimes we're ahead, sometimes we're losing, and sometimes we lose money on it.
And I'm trying to do exactly what you're doing, because I work for the county, and I'm trying to make sure I understand exactly what's going on also, and making sure that maybe we're not being overcharged. And that brings up another question.
Okay. Well, see, now you're also holding 5%
No.
retainage.
I don't think it's a 5% retainage.
It's 5% retainage.
Anyway, right here. And this is an estimate from, this is your estimate. Will and Electric. This is PR 79, change 3 light strips to 5 2x2 lay-in fixtures on the 5th floor.
Uh-huh.
So I asked about that. I was like, okay. Just because, there again, I'm trying to learn. It's a $2,345 estimate, which I don't think it's a bad estimate. I'm not worried about that at all. I go over and look at the backup information on it. It shows a $2,345. It shows what the general contractor's paying. It shows what your markup is. I mean, I understand it completely, and I agree with it. My question is, I don't see any kind of reduction or mark off for what your original contract, you were supposed to supply 3 strip lights and labor to install them 3 strip lights. And we're getting billed for the markup, but we're not getting the discount for what we didn't have done. Because they didn't put them in and take them down.
The fixtures are here, they're yours.
Okay, so the
The
labor.
labor, that was just an ad in the labor to install, I believe it was 5 2x2s instead of 3 strips. It wasn't a total rebid, it was the added cost to make that change.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we're not doing those, so those 3 lights we have here.
We all have a bunch of doors too.
You see what I'm
It's
getting
$1
at there?
apart, yeah.
That's what when I get that, I'm like, okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
But if we're not gonna use them 3 lights, and we're not gonna have the labor to put up them 3 lights, then you'd think there'd be an offset in that.
And they probably should have written it up different, but that is a net ad. That's not a quote to furnish 5 lots with labor for 5 lots and adding 2
Well,
plugs.
sure it is. It says on there, that's exactly what it is.
Well, but that,
Well, that's exactly what it
they've
says.
taken into account the labor that they're not gonna do to hang those 3 lots. Now,
But it
the
doesn't-
lots themselves are already here.
But it
They're
didn't say
yours.
that. And if this, and what my point to that whole story is, if this is a little $2,300 one, and you have one that's a $30,000 one, that we maybe changed and we didn't use that labor and we didn't use that stuff, are we just adding on all the time, or are we ever
No,
taking
sir.
anything off? Because we don't see any taken off.
Well, if anything's ever out of line, and how many times have I done it, particularly in
We've
the
refigured.
election areas?
There's probably half a dozen that we've gone back and refigured or re-estimated, made changes in. There's half a dozen that were rejected simply because, he felt like they weren't, there were several where we recommended they reject them because we felt like they were too high.
And that makes sense what I'm asking though.
It does, and I
and
should
that's-
probably make my subs be a little more clear when they write it, but I can tell you that when we send them the PR, it doesn't say, give me a price for 5 fixtures and labor to install 5 fixtures. It says what we're doing is we're substituting these 5 fixtures for these 3 fixtures and adding 2 plugs. It's a net add that they're taking into account. They're not billing us or charging us for the labor to install 5 full fixtures without taking out the other labor.
Okay. But I feel like I don't mean to come across as being offensive. I'm not.
No,
I'm just
I
trying
understand.
to learn and
And
look
I'm-
out for the best interests of the county.
And
No
I will
different
try to
than
do
you
better
are.
in the future if there is a credit to have them rewrite their estimates that way. Because I know they're doing it, Commissioner. So I will be more vigilant in the future of having them, list any credits that's there.
I'm just trying to make sure that I understand this is a very complex billing system, and it's very hard to see all the moving parts to it.
Right.
So I literally started this all as just asking questions, trying to learn, and then it came out in court like it was a big blow up, and I didn't even really say a lot that day. I think Jeff asked the questions, but I was just I'm just asking questions.
And we would have been glad to have come.
So
And
I wasn't trying to be offensive, so
No,
remember
no,
that. I'm doing just my due diligence to look out for
I
the county.
understand.
No different than you. That's all I had though.
Anybody else?
Kind of a question for both of you. Project this big didn't start out this big when it started, right? Back in April 21?
I actually think that our original budget was $6 million, and it came, wasn't it?
Right.
And it came in right at 4.
Okay.
When we did a preliminary budget, a lot of that was in the demolition. We got a really good demo price that.
They'll probably wish they'd have never gave.
No, I wish they had never, but
Do y'all,
That demo was a big consideration going in, though. We
That was
knew that
huge.
gonna
it
be
was huge, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, we were all tickled to death when this company came in, because they had everything I did, I called other clients, and they had done good work, and they come up here, Lord,
You
3 or
started
4
off
times,
gangbusters.
3 or 4 times before the bid, and they came in with just a really good bid, and then we just couldn't get them to do any work. So,
The bid was too good.
yeah.
They brought in equipment that failed and failed
Yeah.
again.
Well, we ended up getting the same piece, we rented the same piece of equipment they had. They've been messing with this piece of junk, trying to get it to run for 3 months, with no work being done. And, so, anyway, we took it over ourselves.
And not to make light of any of it at all, but when you look at the projects that are being done around town, $70 million here, $80 million here, over $100 million here. In the grand scheme of things, a $4 million job is very important to all of us here. But a $4 million job, the portion of that work for like Will and Electric, they've got these other big jobs that they're working on. And so it's not to say that $4 million is not a big job. $4 million is a big job, but
Well,
the work that is getting done in this town.
And it goes back to the labor.
where it's hurt is that there's not that many local subs being utilized on these bigger projects, but there's a lot of the local labor
Mhm.
that, you know, they've come in and hired these guys and I mean, it is, it's pretty slim pickings right now to, you know, and we lost one of our best people that we had up here, who had to retire, due to cancer, which was a big blow to us a couple of weeks ago. But we've hired we did find another guy, we moved him in from out of town and looks like he's gonna do pretty good, so.
Yeah, it's a
But you
big
know,
loss.
construction is frustrating in general, especially when you're trying to operate the way we operate around here on a schedule, and you've got noise considerations, and you've got all things you don't run into in every place.
Yeah, if we're building a new building out here, we have a tenth of the issues that you have working in an operating facility. And we really try hard. I think Pat does a really good job of taking in. I mean, I know he checks with the judges most days or most Mondays to see what's going on that week. So we schedule work. We try to schedule work away from, you know, where we're gonna be affecting the most people. But sometimes it just, you know, this whole building's built out of concrete. If you drop a screwdriver right here, you're gonna hear it on the other side of the building. So it's just what we're dealing with.
But as frustrating as it is, it just reassures me when I walk through that basement portion down there and I realize what was there when that started. That's an amazing use of space that is going to bring benefits to the taxpayers of Wichita County for many, many years to come. And I think there is something to be said for going through the pains that it causes to go into one of these old buildings and regenerate. We could have gone off out here and done a $200 million bond project and built a new courthouse, but I think that's a lot more responsible to do what we're doing. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be good. Yes, it's frustrating. Doggone right it is when it's like remodeling your house and living there. That's an experience that is not good, but golly, I am inspired by the progress we're making. I mean, we're going.
Commissioner, I told my wife next time we remodeled our house, I was hired one of my competitors.
There you go. I mean, there is life in
And you're gonna rush in to get it done.
You know, and we're gonna have something here I think we're gonna really be proud of, and I think there's just a lot of good. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, there's misunderstandings and all that, but
I just want y'all to know you can call me at any time.
Yeah.
And we're open to answer any questions, to take any of your concerns, and you know, get this project complete and where everybody's happy with it. That's the main reason I wanted to come in.
I really appreciate you coming in and talking
You
to us.
bet.
And don't think that, I don't think any of us here are trying to be offensive. We're not trying to blindside anybody, just trying to ask questions and learn. So,
Well, y'all are welcome to AOC
No
meetings
different-
every 2 weeks.
no different, no different.
Always.
And I need to make sure
Always.
that I'm allowed to be there if other people are there, so.
You're more than welcome.
We can start if we need to posting or you can do
Posting.
it too. So.
Well, if y'all need to get hold of me, you know where I'm at.
Thank you, Kevin.
thank you, Kevin, appreciate it.
All right, do we have any other questions, comments?
I'd like to make a couple of comments
Corey's got it,
myself.
okay.
First, I want to just talk about the mentioning of pay being withheld. Pay was not necessarily being withheld for purposes of the work. The pay was withheld because we had no funds, because we didn't have any finalization to move the ARPA funds out, so we had no funds in permanent improvement to make those payments. The reason we request that stuff for each specific project is because that's what ARPA requires. I know you see it as a whole, as one giant project, but ARPA is gonna require us to record it by each individual parts of that project. So each office, we have to break down for those specifics. That's why we're requesting that type of information, and that's where the delay got held up in the past.
But the $10 million lost revenue, we don't have the same reporting requirements.
We don't have everything in that project set to lost revenue. We have lost
We,
revenue set up
we
for
could
other
have
areas.
transferred that lost revenue into permanent improvement to
And then
cover
we
those
lose our
accounts.
lost revenue.
Yeah, that would have created knock-on effects in the way that we have the other money
Can't
allocated.
not pay our bills.
I think if we had known that earlier too, it would have made it a lot easier than to the point where, okay, we are holding payment because we need this. If we had known it 3 months before, we could have got you that information. That was part of the problem.
I'm pretty sure that we didn't just send the information, at one point in time. We sent the information and had to wait for a good period of time to get that money moved over. But I don't have all the specific
And
details.
that's-
I'm not in accounts payable, so I'm just stating
Yeah.
where we're headed. And
The
we're gonna have to
information
do
that we
this again.
requested of both our architect and our builder was above and beyond, usual, reasonable, customary information is provided. That's outside of the general payout. We had to sit down and discuss.
I will let y'all have y'all's opinion too as how difficult it is to get them out for a considerable office or whatever. That's what I'm
And I
here
kind
for.
of agree with you on that, because on that bill that I just discussed with Kevin, that $5,800 from carpentry work, it would be nice if that said temporary courtroom. It don't have to be any more detailed than that, but it would be beneficial for the auditor's office and for the people signing off on the bills to see that.
And on top of the billing, I know we had a couple of questions with the card access stuff, because there's 2 different card access parts on there. I don't know if there's a specific card access and there's an electronic card access. I don't know. We really kind of need to know where that breakdown kind of comes from, so we know when we see, like you pointed out, we got some billing for some card access, but nobody knows where the card access was done and what kind of billing we got billed for it, so we have questions on the bill to whether or not we can pay it, because we can't even, we don't have a clue where the card
It's
access is.
verified though, it's a verified payout. All the deliverables have been
Okay.
verified.
If
and
it's verified, then why is nobody here telling us where the card access work was done? Because
Yeah.
this question just got asked. And not one person in here has said where the
I
card
believe it's
access.
equipment that's
it's
in stock right
materials.
now. It has not been installed, but it's been purchased and delivered to Willem.
If it's a purchasing, yes, I understand. If we purchase something and we receive permit or receive possession of the process, yes. But that's what we're trying to figure out.
Again, the project's not over until everything is signed off on at the end of the punch list.
Because you know,
Exactly.
but that's the whole deal. He's got to know what fund to take it out of, though.
It's not so much completely fun, because right now we're paying everything out of permanent improvement. We can't move anything from ARPA to permanent improvement, so permanent improvement ran low again, which is, I don't believe, the case at the moment. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm saying is, we're paying a bill every month. We need to know for sure that that's what, I know that he's signing off on it, she's signing off on it, and you're signing off on it, but we're not actually seeing what we're actually paying for.
You are on the contract. You're paying the terms of the contract.
The terms of the contract are the completions of things, not actual
We're
work.
paying a percent complete
We're
off the
asking
terms
about
of the contract.
We're asking about the card access, because we have
But
2 bills on there for a card access. that we
It
don't
hasn't
know anything
been, it's
about.
not a full deliverable yet. If we got equipment that's been taken in. It's
If
like if I take,
equipment- that's what I'm
if they
asking.
deliver me
Equipment
a
has to come in,
truckload
that's
of
fine.
carpet,
I'm
it
asking that
hasn't
the
been
equipment came
installed
in.
yet.
I'm asking that the equipment came in. I'm asking if there was work done on the card access. Y'all said it's equipment, I'm fine. I'm saying, when we talked about this bill and the card access on there, everybody stood up and said, I don't know what that's about.
Well, you just.
But you signed off on it and didn't know what it was about.
So,
That's what I'm saying. I'm
buildings,
not trying to get into anything here. I'm just saying this is the kind of stuff that we're looking at.
right, so on that, as far as the communication goes, the billing's done once a month, right? So that kind of question would be a prime spot for us to bring up at one of the OAC meetings, because that's where we would see it. And I think that, I guess what I'm asking is from a time frame standpoint, when we get the signed off bill, for lack of a better term, there's enough of a time gap between when we get that, when court takes it up, for those questions to be asked at an OAC meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have an OAC on the second Thursday of every month, so by the time I get the bill, I sign off on it, I get it to y'all, it's around that first week, and then you would have access to that by the second week when we have our meeting.
I'm gonna say this for what it's worth. We completed a $72 million project using these same pay apps. We got every one of our deliverables, everything was completed at the end of the project. There was nothing left off that contract that was not completed. No one had a question. No one had-
Mark, because it was an unique bills are proposed to pay for it, that complicates the whole thing right there.
That's where it's coming from.
That's where it
And it's a
is.
brand new building, you're building not occupied by people that are all have different concerns.
I think one thing that would be nice, if y'all could come up with the breakdown you need on the annex now, or sometime soon, so that we could go ahead and start getting that put together before we end up in the same spot we are here.
Okay.
Ultimately, like to make it easier for you,
And
easier for
Everybody.
everybody, so there's not,
The more time we have, Commissioner, that, you know, where it becomes an issue is when we gotta have this, you know, in 2 weeks,
right.
it creates issues. If we get it, what they need now, then we can go ahead and start working on that and get that done for, you know, and get it to them.
Yeah, but comparing this project to the jail project,
Well,
that was one project that nobody ever saw, never went into until it was done. It's not really anything to do like this.
Well, we're asking for a process change in midstream, which can be accommodated, but we need to know what that ask is.
Anything else, Corey, on that?
No, I just wanted to clarify those couple of things that seemed to be, like they could have been taking shots at certain things, so I was clarifying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Glenda, Kevin, Pat, thank you all for the time.
Thank y'all for
Thank you all.
Thank y'all for listening. Appreciate it.
All right, it is 12:07.